It's the city of Harare and the city of Bulawayo, by virtue of the fact that it's on a watershed divide, happens to sit upstream of its drinking water source. So all the sewers drain into the drinking water.
It's very difficult to say that a person is a climate change refugee or a climate change migrant even, because there are always multiple factors that would cause a person to migrate. But certainly increasing pressure on water resources is going to be one of them.
My name is Ambrose Mapirana and I come from Zimbabwe. Basically, I was specializing in production of vegetables. I was muchly affected by the weather change. So that's why I resorted to leave farming to come to South Africa. The amount of rain for which we are receiving as farmers for the crops, for non-irrigating farmers, it was not adequate for us to keep on farming. It used to be better, it used to be good, but because of climate change, it was no longer good. The way from Zimbabwe to Johannesburg, it is not an easy thing. It's only because desperation and hunger back home forces people even to do whatever, even if it is dangerous. I had no money to feed the family. I had no money to do any project. I had no money to even continue my project as a farmer. I didn't know the route. I didn't know where I was going, and I had no papers. But only what I knew that is how to cross the border without papers. And it happened that the locals felt jealousy and enmity amongst them raised the issue of xenophobia. People were bent with tires and petrol. People were shot, were cut with axes. It was so dangerous. People were so scared. My problem could also affect someone in Europe. So to those richer countries, with their activities of pollution that is affecting the temperatures in Africa, they should be with us. They should understand it, and they should take that on the side that we are all human beings.
In a country when you have political instability, you don't have a huge amount of money to go and subsidize those farmers to see them through their difficulties. The result is a huge exodus of people who simply have to find something.
So if we assume that 2 degrees global average temperature increase is going to happen in Southern Africa, some of the the indication is that we could see up to 110 million more people experiencing water scarcity.
Now that poses the question, can we solve tomorrow's problem with today's science based on yesterday's experience?
We need to improve science at a local level. In other words, the application of knowledge at a local level. And in this sense, sub-Saharan Africa is still using yesterday's science at a local level.
That water is a flux. It moves in time and space. It's a fugitive resource. Therefore, if you manage it as a flux, you start developing a new science that's not yet based on observable things, but we can at least assume that these linear relationships that we understood in the past are no longer going to be applicable in the future.
And we need to see governments taking a long-term view as to what is needed to assure sufficient water of appropriate quality in the places where it's needed, at the times that it's needed.
We cannot continue with business as usual. What technologies can we generate that will help our farmers adapt? What sort of information do we need to get to the farmers in good time so that they can change the way they farm? And all that requires a new way of doing business where we all engage on a national, regional and global plan that will make Southern Africa food secure.
It's going to take some really clever forward thinking to get all of that information together and look at the likely or probable changes that will occur, the rate of change so you get your timing right, and get the right projects or infrastructure projects in place so that you can make sure water is available when needed.
Thinking beyond borders means taking into account holistically all the investments that are required for a safe future. These are scientific investments, infrastructural investments, social investments. If we don't get those right, climate change is going to turn what is already quite a difficult part of the world to live in into an almost impossible part of the world to live in, with all sorts of negative impacts on people.
We are simply at the edge of that paradigm, and this is the big challenge that climate change presents us. And we know from a number of other experiences that crisis is the moment that focuses the mind, and I believe we're at that point now.
So it is not us really who are at fault with this climate change. It is the big countries that are the cause of this climate change, but it affects us, even affects us more and worse than them.
And if we don't get that right, there's going to continue to be an insensitivity about what we do to this environment that ultimately is going to damage one of the most exquisite resources that we have.
Let's invest in a decision that will allow the African farmer to be at par with the international farmers who are respected for feeding their countries.
The governance should be a global governance and a constant exchange of views, a common interest. We should develop this idea of a common interest of the world, not just a common interest of a few.
The next generation